Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining the Binghamton City Council for the work session, 6 p.m., 26th of June, 2023. Please stand for the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic that stands one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Clerk will call the roll. Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Resinetti. Present. Councilwoman Riley.
Present.
Councilmember Friedman.
Present.
Councilman Burns is absent. Councilman Strawn.
Present.
Councilman Scanlon is absent, and President Scringy.
Present.
Okay, that's 5 here, 2 absent, Burns and Scanlon.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Just two really quick things. Just want to announce a slight agenda change. Nothing substantive in terms of the RLs, but for RL 23-137 and 23-149, our presenters this evening will be Megan Heineman and Sarah Close. So just wanted to let council know that. As well, I want to take just a moment just to introduce formally John Sperduti. John Sperduti is our new gentleman sitting in the back with a very nice tie, is our Binghamton City Clerk, Janine Faulkner's selection for Deputy Binghamton City Clerk. He is actually has a very active individual here in Binghamton City Hall, has worked in Corp Counsel's office for quite some time. So he has incredible knowledge. So want to thank Janine for John's appointment and welcome John to the clerk's office, and hope we get some time maybe after the meeting just to spend a few minutes just talking to him and saying hello. So just wanted to give you a formal welcome, John, to introduce you to the body, and glad to have you aboard. Appreciate that. So with that being said, let's move forward. And at this time, we'll review RLs 25 and 148. Ask Pat McGinnis to join us, who is already with us. Good evening, Pat. How are you?
Good. How about you?
Well, thank you. Floor is yours, sir.
So RL 135 is a amendment of the parks budget to fund some more band concerts and movies in the park this summer, fall and
Thanks so much. Discussion? .48, Pat.
148 is fund an emergency repair of the Parks Department maintenance garage. There's some pictures attached, and I apologize for the non-engineering description of this, but there's a retaining wall out back that the garage sits on and just kind of collapsed on us unexpectedly. Right now, all of the piers that hold the building up are still stable, and the building itself hasn't sagged. Talking with Ron from engineering, it's something that we got to get done like ASAP before start losing the structural integrity of the building. And then the plan would be to put in a new retaining wall this year, and then budget the follow-up repairs in next year's budget.
Thank you, Pat.
Yep.
Council, any discussion? Councilwoman Fried.
Thank you, President Scringy. Hi, Pat. How are you?
Good. How about you?
I'm okay. Thanks. So I was fortunate enough to take a tour of this facility. I want to say it was last year. And, also in kind of an unscientific way, this looks bad. These pictures look alarming. My only concern is that, and I don't want to misrepresent anything that you said, but I think the consensus of that building is that you're kind of doing the best that you can with a building that is very old and not necessarily built for the purpose that it is being used for at the moment.
Correct.
Okay, so my only concern is that this is a lot of money, and I understand that it's a necessary repair. However, I'm wondering if you can maybe speak to your perception of repairing this building as opposed to maybe finding a new building, which would be a larger project, but it would be also more permanent than this fix.
Yes, so we looked at a couple things. Ron from engineering priced out kind of a similar size building built from scratch. Should be in the $7 to $8 million range. This repair is $100,000 now and probably another $150,000 next year. The plan next year would be, once this retaining wall is fixed, would be to basically the slabs on the floor where the fill material kind of settled in, sunk and caused this wall to collapse, would be to core out some of those slabs and put a flowable concrete in to raise it back up, make sure there's no voids, and then put an asphalt finish on so it's nice and level. He thought that would buy, another 15 to 20 years on the building. Building is not built for what we use it for, but kind of speaking when this all happened to Nick and Carmen, our maintenance supervisors, they can get by. They like the building. They make it work for them. They didn't push to prioritize, funding a whole new building. And unfortunately, there's not a lot of vacant warehouse space in the city to kind of jump on another location. And we have a really good location where, dead central versus being tucked away in a corner of the city where, it takes us longer, more wear and tear to get places. So we did look at a few options, and this kind of financially at the time makes, the most sense.
Okay, yeah, 15 to 20 years is actually longer than I was imagining that this
Yeah, me
fix
too.
would-
I was a
would
little,
bias.
but he seems pretty confident that, this should buy this building a lot of time. And the last, I think 2 years ago, we spent, $200 thousand on a brand new roof for it. So we're sealed up tight now. We're not leaking water, into the building.
Okay, well, that's comforting to know. Thank you for that info.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Councilwoman Resident, and then I'll go to Councilwoman Rob.
Question. I was just wondering, was just looking at the first picture where the hole is that in a separate area from where the rest of the
So
work is being done? So I guess I'm just wondering if it's that bad all around. You know what I mean? Or is it
Yeah.
just one area?
So that hole was what kind of opened up, and then I think on page 7, we actually took we had DPW come in with one of their backhoes and kind of open that area up so we could get a view under the building to see what was happening.
So it's the same area.
So that's the
Okay.
same area. The new retaining wall would call for that retaining wall runs the entire length of the building. It would replace all of that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Councilwoman Riley.
You council excuse me, long weekend. Thank you. Pat, how are you doing?
Good. How about yourself?
I'm here. Please help me understand the revenue and fund balance transfer notes that are there. I see several decreases. I see several increases, but it's not equaling the 100,000 that you're speaking of. So should line number 2 with the $75,000 be a decrease from the revenue line and the fund balance to equal a total 100,000? Or is that an increase?
That is beyond me.
Okay,
Chuck kind of whipped this up. I was able to come up with $25,000 towards the 100
okay,
out of we have playground, basically playground wood chips.
from
that
the
I-
fiber.
Yep. So that
And
was what
then-
I was able to come up with. And then how he explained it to me was the 75,000 would come out of the fund balance.
So that should be a decrease instead of an increase to the fund balance.
I would have to double check and run it
Okay,
by, but
okay. And then tell me this project will then be posted for proposals, or is DPW then responsible for building the retaining wall?
so it's two answers to that question. It's not expedited because I want engineering to have time to finish up the drawings and then it will be bid out.
Okay. Now, engineering costs, the bidding process, is that part of this 100,000?
So the engineering drawings are gonna be done in-house,
Okay.
and then the bidding is also done in-house, so. And we're hoping, it comes in a little bit less, but this is, an estimate.
Thank you for clarifying. We will need some clarity on this, on the line item, so we understand where the money is coming from.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, can we get out a message to the comptroller's office if we could just get some clarification on 23-148 and the increases and decreases with the revenues and the expenditures, just so the numbers are adding up? Thank you so much. Thank you, Councilman. Any other discussion? Councilman Burns.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good evening, sir. I'm been playing golf up at Ely, and it's fantastic. The big topic the last couple of days was what's going on at Rec Park? What's the latest?
So they should begin paving this week. They've milled out everything. They've raised up the base on the courts by about 4 inches, which they're hoping will alleviate the previous water issues we had at Scott. Forgive me for my lack of engineering terms at Scott. Extended drains that should be able to catch and do everything. Hoping that we get some weather cooperation. They'll be done paving this week. Then it sits and cures for 30 days and then about 2 days to put on the surfacing. So we're hoping to be rolling before August.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Any other discussion? Councilwoman Rowley.
Just upon that discussion, I too have had some inquiries. So we will still have the original mapping and outlining for pickleball and tennis as,
Yes.
okay.
Yep, we'll have 8 courts, I believe 6 of them double lined for tennis pickleball and 2 lined for tennis, junior tennis.
Councilwoman Rosenet.
Yeah, Pat, you and I have talked about this. I don't know much about pickleball, but I'm thrilled to see that it's going. I mean, I'm getting calls about that all the time. So to be able to do that, to offer a place for folks to play pickleball, is excellent, and can't wait.
Yeah, it should hopefully make some people happy
Yeah, I think
um,
so.
to have both.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Any other discussion? Pat, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate
Have a
you.
good night.
Thank you. At this time, I'd like to ask Grace Doherty from the Mayor's Office to join us for RLs 23-123 and 147. Evening, Grace. How are you? Good. Thank you so much. Floor is yours.
There we go. Okay. Yeah,
Thank you.
I'll repeat that. RL 123 and 147 are side lots that are going to be sold to be maintained as green space. I brought a few of these before us, so do you have any questions?
Thank you, Grace. Any discussion? Seeing none. Grace, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate you. This time, I'd like to ask Dr. Burling from Planning Department to join us for RLs 23, 129, 141, and 142. Evening. How are you? Thank you so much for joining us. Floor is yours.
I think if it's all right, could we start with 142?
Please, of course.
Where I'm asking that we rescind the permanent order 022189 for 92 Park Ave sale, originally to Sandra Brooks, I think was her name. She hasn't replied since December. She hasn't sent in a signed offer. We had her signed offer, but she didn't sign the contract and return it. She's not returning emails, phone calls, or a certified letter. So I don't think that sale is going to go through. Okay, so if that's all right, we can rescind it. We do have a valid grant offer. I have the signed contract with me, but I didn't make it into the packet. Would you like a?
If that can be made available,
Yeah.
sure, I can take it now and offer it to the clerk's office for circulation. Thank you. Council, this just came in, so it's just a function of time. So I'll make sure this gets scanned and circulated to everyone right away. Go ahead, Juliet. I'm
So
sorry.
this is regarding, let's see, the RL 23-141, the sale to Erica Barber.
Mhm.
We received her offer to purchase a couple of weeks ago. And let's see, what was the date? On the 15th. She followed it up with a signed contract. She is a city police officer and a vet. So she has two of the criteria. So she has a higher kind of a rating, I guess, for purchasing this property. So I'd like to make it, I'd like to sign this and sell the property to her. We had another offer from Deborah Navarro, which I thought this offer would replace. So that would be 129, and that one was verbal only. We never received a written offer or a signed contract. I notified her that we had one in place and she was fine with it, with us taking the other offer.
Got it.
Yes. Yes,
So 123, 129 should be stricken.
yes,
That's what I was just about to ask.
yeah. All right.
So RL 23-129, just for the record, that's not in review for us.
Correct.
Thank you very much. Okay, so just in review again, so we have 142, the rescinding of the original, and then 141 is for the proposal with a signed contract.
Yep.
Awesome. Thank you. Councilwoman Riley.
Thank you again, Council President. Hello, Dr.
Hi.
Burling. How are you?
Um,
When the original contract fell through with no further response from the initial partner, I will say,
Mhm.
how was this then resolicited to ensure an equitable process?
It's on our website and it's always been up. We never took it down. So Deb Navarro saw it and called and asked if we would show it. So we did. We had two other people actually call to see it, but none were interested. She was the only one. So that's the only way we've been advertising it.
And the time, so remember, this is the property we were marketing initially.
Yep.
But then there was a timeline on that marketing packet, like the show dates and blah, blah, blah.
Oh, well, we just had an open house.
Okay,
So yeah, we were taking offers all along.
all along.
Yep,
Okay.
and we would vet them and we had one, the first offer we had was great and they withdrew the offer. And then we've had a number that just didn't come through.
Okay. And so then this applicant was then reviewed using the same methodology and the same review team to
Yep.
rank her the best candidate moving forward, or she's the only one we have moving forward?
She's the only one we have,
Okay.
other than Deb Navarro,
Who
who,
rescinded?
yeah, well, yeah. After I told her we had a a competing offer. She had none of the qualifications.
Okay, so she
So-
would have been ranked lower anyway, based
Yep.
upon our qualification.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Any other, Councilwoman Freeman?
Thank you, President Scringy. Hi, Dr. Berling.
Hi.
How are you?
Fine, how are you?
I'm okay. So I was, well, my first question is there any official length of time or criteria for deciding that someone likely will not respond? I mean, it seems
No.
like you've done everything
Yeah.
that you could. I'm
Well,
wondering if there's anything officially
with-
written,
With the first offer.
the first
um,
offer, yeah.
She had submitted Sandra Brooks, I guess, or she had submitted an offer to purchase. And I discussed it with her and I sent her the contract. And Jared had signed it, so the mayor had signed it, and she never returned a signed contract or any of our phone calls. And in the contract, it says you have 45 days.
Oh, 45
So that
days,
had
okay.
expired, yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
we-
I just wanted to make sure there was some official
Oh, yeah.
amount instead of just, oh, we feel like,
Yeah.
you know, it's been
No,
long enough.
no. And then when the other two offers came in, I let Deborah know that we had a competing offer. She didn't want to increase her price and the other offer had a higher criteria. And she said, that's fine, thank you.
Mhm. Yeah, that makes sense.
And we didn't have anything signed with her at all. So
So my other question is, can you remind me, please, if there's any, I know there's some criteria in the Cities Rise grant for applicants based on personal characteristics.
yep, I can read you the list. And
Well, actually, my question was, are there any or criteria based on other factors like previous homeownership or like intent to be owner occupied or anything like that?
that's with our residential projects that we sell. This one had retail and it was so restrictive that we changed that covenant. You don't have to live on site, but you can't sell it within 5 years unless you can prove that the remediations of the rehab has been completed. 'Cause the first floor is just pretty much down to stud. So,
Right. Okay. So theoretically, someone could purchase a property and then rent it out and that would be okay?
that one,
That this particular one because of the retail.
yeah, they just
That's
can't
right.
buy it and sell it right away.
Okay.
They can buy it, fix it and market it.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep, it costs a lot more to fix this one, so anybody that buys it still has quite a bit of work to do on it. But this applicant intends to live there and have a home office in the basement. Yeah,
Thank you, Councilwoman. Any other discussion? Seeing none. Thank you, Julia.
okay,
Appreciate
thank you.
This time I'd like to ask Megan Heineman from the Mayor's Office to join us for RLs 23, 136 and 146. Evening, Megan. How are you?
I'm well, how are you?
Good, good. Thank you for joining us. Floor is yours.
Of course, thank you. Okay, the first one here is RL 23-136. This is an ordinance to amend the 2023 refuse budget. If you recall, during the budget process, when we create the budget each year, we recognize that there will be a certain number of unfilled positions for stretches of time. And we reflect that in the budget line referenced here. So this RL is to transfer unused salary funds from those unfilled positions to make good on the minus 50,000 we budgeted for during the budgeting process. This is essentially a housekeeping item. And if you recall, I came to you back in February with a similar item that was just in the general funds.
Thank you, Megan. Discussion. Seeing none, Megan, RL 23, 146, please.
Okay, RL 23-146. This is for use of ARPA funds to provide a retention bonus to our Teamsters employees. These bonuses were outlined as part of their last contracts. The bonuses are essentially $500 for any Teamster employee that has been employed with the city for the last 9 months. And it's intended to help retain those employees.
Thank you, Megan. Discussion? Councilwoman Freeman.
Thank you, President Scrungy. Hi, Megan. How are you?
Hi, Councilmember. I'm well, thank you.
So these are not necessarily employees that were working during COVID. They just have to have been employed for the last 9 months. Is that correct?
Yeah, so it would have been the last 9 consecutive months.
Okay,
That's correct.
okay. Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Councilwoman
So-
Rosenetti.
This is not discussion regarding the RLs, but it's something that I've been wanting to ask you, Megan, if that's okay. I meant to ask work sessions ago and I forgot, but I noticed, how do you like to be addressed? Deputy mayor or executive assistant to the mayor? And I ask that because I know we've gone back and forth, and I certainly appreciate and value your position. And I want to make sure that you are comfortable with whatever how we're addressing you. And I do know that for years, while men were in that position, they had been called deputy mayor. And you were female in this position for a while. And now I see that the title has sort of shifted. And it's something that I noticed. And I want to make sure that I as weird as this might be, it's something that I've been thinking about. And I wanted to ask you how you feel about that. If I can, right? I mean, you're the first female who has been in this deputy mayor sort of role in a while. And I noticed that on some of our documents, that's not what it says. So I wanted to be respectful. And again, I value what you do, and I want to make sure that I honor you in the way that you need to be. So just something that I wanted to bring up. Whatever you want me to call you, I will, Megan. But it has to be what you feel comfortable with, and it could be all or none.
Thank you. I appreciate that, Councilwoman. I introduced myself as deputy mayor.
Okay, thank you.
I appreciate
Thank you.
that.
So there's a little bit of was this the executive assistant here, which is fine. I just want to make sure that I can use deputy mayor because that's what I have been calling you. And I'm glad to hear that that's okay.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Councilwoman Rod.
Thank you, Council President. And hearing that from my fellow council member, I also agree that then we should use the terminology on all of our legislation moving forward, as we have done in the past when Jared was in the seat. So I hope we can be consistent and use the terminology. So if that's what you prefer, I'll support that, and we'll see it written appropriately.
Thank you.
Or even interchangeably, as long as it's an option or it's something that you're comfortable with. I just didn't want. Yeah. I mean, as long as it isn't something that feels like it's been removed, and that was my concerns, but it doesn't sound like it at all.
No, not at all. Sometimes the RLs come from different places. So, but I appreciate that. Thank you.
Sorry, Councilwoman Freeman.
Thank you. I will say maybe a minor note. I think in the budget officially it says executive assistant to the mayor, so we might have to switch that. Yeah. So.
Ye-
Oh, of course. No, I think it is important to acknowledge that a lot of time, right, that women are like viewed as the assistants automatically, and officially that's the title, but you're right that when a man was in the title, when a man was in the position, the title was changed to deputy mayor. So just to note that maybe in the budget, we should officially denote the change.
So just for, and I appreciate the discussion, but just for clarification, the line budget item has always been executive assistant to the mayor. If we can look at the possibility of getting that formally changed, and I have no problem with that, I think that's great, but yes.
In terms of our internal documents, we do update it quite frequently, like we did with seeker and the like. So
Sure.
we can do that ourselves. So when she's here, we know to address
Yeah,
her as she would
absolutely.
prefer.
Madam Clerk, maybe we need to maybe Corp Counsel, maybe that's a discussion we can have sometime later in the week. I'll reach out to you and see if there's a process in relation to that.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I didn't need to, I
No,
just wanted
it's
to
fine.
make sure that I know what is acceptable and okay with Megan, as far as,
I appreciate it.
me addressing.
Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you for the RL. Any other discussion on the RL? Councilman Burns.
Thank you, President. So, Madam Deputy Mayor. The $500, are they getting it in a check, or how are they getting it just as a bonus at the paycheck? How is it working?
I'm not certain of that, Councilman. I'd have to ask the finance department. I'd imagine it would be just included as part of their next or whichever paycheck it's in.
Thank you.
But I would have to check with finance.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anything on 146 as it relates to the ARPA funding, Megan? Or council? All right, seeing none. Megan, thank you very much.
Sure. And Mr. President, I do have one of Mr. Shager's RLs. Do you want me to do that now or?
Yeah, so
come
I
back?
actually felt bad because I just noticed actually Bernice was kind of smack in the middle of the two of these.
I will
did you,
be here, so I can come back.
are you sure? I
Yep.
feel bad. I don't want to,
I'll be here.
all right, I appreciate that. Thank you very much. This time I'd like to ask Bernice Griffiths from purchasing to join us, please, for 23-139 and 23-140. How are you, Bernice? Good to see you. Floor is yours.
Okay, the first one I have RL 23-139, and that is to amend the central services budget to transfer funds from personnel lines to professional services to cover the operational costs for Napa.
Thank you, Bernice. Council discussion. Councilwoman Freeman.
Thank you, President Scringy. Hi, Bernice. How are you?
Good, how are you?
Good. So I had made a note here, outsourcing to where, and when you said Napa, it reminded me that I think at this point we might be due for a 30-day or a 60-day update.
I believe we have it scheduled for the next session, the first one in July. I think it's about mid-July is when we're planning on having them come in.
Okay, so. Right, so now, it doesn't say on here that this is going to Napa, so now I'm looking at this kind of with fresh eyes. And it. Okay, it makes me nervous. I don't know if that's the right word, but we were when we were debating the contested legislation to outsource to Napa, one of the selling points is that it would save us money. And now here we are transferring $86,000 to outsource. So can you, I guess, shed a little light on the
So,
discrepancy there?
Yeah, I'll be honest with you, we don't exactly know what exactly it's going to be for the rest of the year at this point. We haven't gotten a bill yet. We think that this money that we're transferring, which was what was left in the line, should be more than sufficient for the rest of the year. But again, once we get that first bill in July, we'll have a better idea.
Okay, so the lines that this money is coming from are unused funds or things were getting shifted around to?
Right. So these were the stores keepers that were at the garage. And then now that they are no longer there, starting June 1st, this is all the funds that were left over from that move.
I see. Okay. So, right. Okay, I understand. And when did you say we would know more?
We'll get the first bill in the end of July with the operating expenses.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Councilwoman Rye.
Thank you again, Council President. How are you, Bernice?
Good. How are you?
Good, good. And perhaps I may have missed this, but I know we were to perform a sale of inventory back to the organization.
Yes.
Where is that report?
We have not sold it yet. They do have, there's some parts that they have down there that they're just not sure of, that's not labeled. It's probably easier if you saw it than me trying to describe it, but they do have the inventory. They're working on it. It's close to completion, and that stuff is all going to be sold here in the near future.
Okay, but they've already accessed and started processing within that area.
Yeah, so
correct?
they've done a full inventory. They have all the inventory that we already had there. They're selling it back to us at $0. And then anything that's obsolete is what they're going to be selling. But they're still working on getting all of that documented.
Is there a timeline?
I can find out for you.
Please. Seeing, and then I want to just note for the record, you mentioned that they will be here July, our first meeting in July, which is
Mhm.
after the holiday, correct?
Yep.
When was that announced?
I spoken,
Do we know?
emailed with Gio about it a
Yeah,
few weeks
so
ago.
I was gonna wait until you were actually finished, but if I may, for 30 seconds. So are we still good for the beginning of July?
Yep.
Yeah, so working on that, it looks like I just wanted to wait until I got something finalized.
Okay.
First meeting in July.
Okay, and prior to that meeting, we need to hear from operational participants, people that have been a part of the process before we have an external party coming in telling what they've perceived, I would believe, so that we understand from both sides of this transition. As you know, when we were looking at the contract, we heard from several parties. Now that it's implemented and we told not only the employees, but the community we represent that we would be staying engaged to determine if this was best for the city.
Mhm.
And we're hearing about a meeting now, yet we have no background information. We don't have the report. We don't see if we're going to generate revenue that was promised. We see that we may have a possible bill. We're transferring funds. So there's a lot of holes here. And July, the first meeting is in 2 weeks. And I feel inadequately prepared for such meeting, seeing that I'm hearing about it now. So we will have to get ready. But will we have that report regarding, can you ask them if we will have that report?
You just
before-
want the inventory
the
report?
inventory and how much we expect to receive in terms of the obsolete, in terms of the sale, in terms of any changes, any savings we've amounted now because we've used their source compared to our previous source. How have the workers felt using their employees, the access to the parts, the I hate to say fluidity, but the ability to order something and have it ready for our DPW team, the
Mhm.
police department, whomever is working with, whoever is dependent heavily on the new process within the parts department.
So if I may for a second, Bernice, would my characterization be correct that the process is still being implemented?
Yeah, I mean, we're only 3.5 weeks into Napa. So I mean, I
Yeah,
don't know that we're going to have all the information that you want at this point because it is still fairly new.
Right. So
Yeah.
it might be a little premature to meet with them also then.
if they can, I have no issue with that at all. From my recollection from our past discussion was approximately halfway through that 60-day,
Yes.
forgive me, pre-contract period, which is about early July coming in. That would be a time. So if you can reach out to Napa
Mhm.
and ask them anything that they can relevantly share on their end, whether it be inventory specs, process implementation, anything like that, I think that would be great to be circulated and disseminated. But I have to be honest, in terms of internal stakeholders and how they've experienced that process, I don't know if we can get an answer to that because
And that's true.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
not asking Bernice to spearhead that. I think
Yeah.
it will happen organically once
Sure,
they know
sure.
we're having this meeting, but I think it
Absolutely.
is important that as we approach this meeting,
Yeah.
we understand what we will be asking, what we can readily seek from this person,
Sure.
so that, again, we're not wasting their time and we are moving forward as we agreed to during the contract negotiation process.
No, I agree. So why don't we do this? I'll just, with all members of council, I'll formally put this on the record. If you have any questions that you would like Napa to be able to intelligently answer when they get here, email me those questions and I will get that to Bernice and the Napa rep myself. So that way they have time to prep, get any sort of paperwork or documentation that they feel might be relevant for that. And then we can discuss that at that point. That's not a problem.
And we will have the official date when you send this request out to, or this is the official request, our response to you, we will have the official date when they will.
Yeah, we'll get that solidified, obviously, on our respective work session agenda. And then Bernice, if you and I
Sure.
can coordinate maybe over the next week just to get that date finalized and stuff like that.
Yeah.
That's fine. And then
Yeah,
as
that'd
soon
be
as I get, yeah, and then as soon as I get that finalized, I'll get that out to everybody.
Perfect. Thank you. That
Absolutely.
concludes my question.
Councilwoman Freeman.
Thank you, President Skirnji. So I have a follow-up concern, I guess. So I hear you when you say, well, it's been not that long, you know, and maybe 3 weeks, or you said it was 3.5 weeks.
Yeah, they started June 1st, so.
So 3.5 weeks, right, is not a lot of time to adjust. But what I'm worried about is that if we only have 60 days to decide if this is working for us and then decide whether we're gonna, I guess, continue or rescind the contract, that now seems like not enough time, in the sense that I'm worried we're gonna watch that 60-day window pass us by before we can say we've given adequate time to try it out, to ascertain whether or not it's working well. So I don't know if, I don't know. I mean, do you think 60-day, but like by the 60-day mark, will that be enough time for us to?
I mean, I can
stay
double
comfortable?
check, but I'm pretty sure that the contract states the 60-day period is any time within the contract that either party can
Right.
walk away. So it's not just
Right.
the first 60 days. It's just with a 60-day notice anytime during the contract period. And I'm
Right.
pretty sure
So-
that's how the contract states.
Yeah, so if I may, Bernice, what I'll do, any feedback that you have that might be as a function of time, need particular action, we'll expedite it to the agenda of the next meeting. And if we need to, we'll call a special business meeting for it. Because again, in Bernice's defense, and tell me if I'm mischaracterizing here, but I think Bernice, you're kind of you're an interconnection between City Hall and Napa, and I'm not even entirely sure how you might be able to impact that. Would that be correct?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, I work with them as far as the billing and things like
Exactly,
that, the
yeah,
setup. So.
Exactly. So not taking away anything from you, of course, but
Yeah, no,
um,
that's fair. And I didn't mean to ask you to speak on behalf of Napa or direct any misdirect any frustration,
Yeah.
shall we say.
no, not at all. And again, if it's okay, just if anything like that comes up, work that through me directly. And if we need to call something, we will. That's all.
Okay,
Not a problem.
yeah.
Thank you. Bernice, 23-146, please.
Yes, 23-146. This is to add additional funds for the contract with Effie Jones for the Marabito Stadium Phase 2 PDL General Construction. These are the final change orders that have come in for the project. So it's an additional 68,153 to the contract.
And Bernice, really quickly, before I jump in here on discussion,
Mhm.
what was the reason for the request for the expediting?
We're trying to wrap up the project. We've
Time
gone
sensitive?
over as it
Okay.
is, so we're
No,
just trying
that's-
to get everything done so we can wrap up and get out of there.
I have no problem with it, just
Okay.
just get that on there. Thank you.
Yep.
Council discussion. Councilwoman Freeman.
Thank you, President Skirnji. So my apologies, I did not have a chance to look up what the budget line title was. Do you know which budget line this is coming from?
Yeah, the budget line there is the Marabito Stadium improvements.
Okay, and these funds are available in that line?
Yes, they are.
Okay, thank you.
Seeing none, Bernice, thank you very,
Thank
very
you very
much.
much.
Appreciate you. This time, from the mayor's office, I'd like to ask Megan Hyman and Sarah Glus to join us for RLs 23, 137 and 149, please. Sorry, Megan, you were like here in the, sorry. Appreciate you. Floor is yours.
Sure, okay, thank you. So I will do RL 23-137. This is to amend the 2023 capital fund budget to close out bond and grant lines. This is basically just another accounting item for projects that have since been completed.
Thank you. Council discussion? Seeing none, 23-149, please. Oh, Sarah Glowes as well. Evening. Go ahead, Councilwoman Riley. Go
Thank
ahead.
you, Council President. Remind me, Megan, so when it's federal aid, are we responsible for returning unused funds?
So that the first attachment after the RL, that has the 4 or the 5 decreases, 4 decreases. Those are projects that came in under budget that were bonded for, so we don't have to borrow as much as we had anticipated. The second page, where it has some different grant funds, those are also projects that are completed and we're just looking to close out the lines. I would have to check with finance to see on the specific line items if we return the grant money, or I imagine we do if we don't have POs for it.
Oh.
But I would have to check.
All right, thank you for that clarification.
Sure.
Thank you. 23-149, please.
Hi.
Evening.
This is request legislation to authorize the city of Binghamton to enter into one or more agreements to provide support for payment of debt service on obligations of the city of Binghamton Water Street Development Corporation, along with appropriating funds for potential deficits in the operation in the annual budgets. This is essentially just in the first several years of operation of the Water Street ramp, we anticipate that our debt service will be larger than the revenues coming in from the grant. So the way everything was originally written was that the revenues would cover that debt service entirely. And this will allow us to use City of Binghamton funds to close that gap. Just as a result of the project overages, interest rate increase in materials, things that were not anticipated at the beginning of this project. This was intended to be a revenue neutral project where the revenues would cover the debt service entirely. But not the way the world works, unfortunately. We did have a report. I believe this went to you shortly before. Did this report go to them? I don't know where we can get it to you. That shows the pro forma, that shows the increase in revenue over the first 5 years to the point where we would then be able to cover the debt service entirely with revenue from the garage itself.
Awesome. Sarah, if you could share that with me at your earliest opportunity, I can circulate that to council. I appreciate that. And then again, just for the record, there was a request here to expedite this, or?
I don't think this one was.
So I don't have it written, but it's starred on the agenda. So I wasn't sure if you had.
No.
It's not. I'm looking at 140. Never mind.
I did the same thing earlier.
I need to smudge out my glasses. That is my fault. So this
No
is not being
problem.
expedited. My apologies. Council on 149 discussion. Thank you, Sarah. Councilwoman Riley.
You, again, Council President, so you are asking for the estimated amount for this? What did you just ask that you can then circulate to us? Because am I missing a page?
Yeah, so it's the 10-year pro forma for the garage. So we had a third party company come in. We did one of these internally. Our bond counsel asked for a third party to validate the figures. So they are just estimates. Obviously, over the next 5 years, we're not exactly sure where the money will go. So I don't believe that this RL has a specific dollar amount attached. It's just to cover the difference between what we owe on the garage, what we're taking in revenue in real time over the course of the project.
Now, is this RL necessary to support the grant that we received? They need to see something in writing, or are we preemptively saying?
I don't believe we have a grant for this
Oh,
project.
okay, I thought I meant you, I thought I heard you say something about a grant, which is why, again, I was gonna then say, well, what grant is it? Because I don't see it here. So let's start over. We know that we are not there will be a significant gap that is on this document that we don't have yet. And you're asking us to then approve it, but we will then have this number before us before we move forward. And since it is not expedited, we can then see you possibly again at the next work session for questions.
So I'm happy to come back at the next work session
Or
for
we can
questions.
email you or what have you.
Yeah, absolutely. But we will not have figures by the end of this month because we won't know what revenues are coming in until the garage is
No, no,
actually built.
But you had
and-
estimates, correct?
Right. So that's what I'm going to provide to Geo. I apologize. I thought these came out to you guys before the meeting, but I will make sure they get to you.
Okay, and the estimates are for the year or for the month? What
They're
are they?
for a 30-year period
A
over
30-year
the life
The
of
entirety of
garage.
the pilot.
Okay, for the
Yeah.
entirety. And so we're looking
Plus some.
to ensure that the city will cover the costs of any deficits for 30 years? Is that the request?
I guess in abstract it is, but the expectation is that it would be 5 years. That's showing that we will have a revenue that's over our debt service by year 6.
Yeah, I mean, thank you. And if I can add to that, it definitely, practically speaking, not even just in theory, it would be nowhere near 3 years. It's not a function of time. It's a function of when expenditures are greater than revenues, which is typically 1 to 5 years.
Correct.
But that is an estimate and that depends on what it is we're talking about. So
Sure.
as the people, again, representing our constituents to be accountable for our fiduciary responsibilities, do we provide this type of coverage for our other, well,
We do.
okay.
Yes.
That's where
Yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
we
Just
actually,
reminded me.
yeah, I mean, for what it's worth, grants are actually a really good example of that. We actually do that all the time.
when we
because-
write it into the proposal, yes.
We
When
specifically do this for parking garages. just
Okay.
to-
Yeah.
That's where I
Yeah.
was going. Okay.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
thank you, because we will fully and wholly own this garage.
The Watershed Local Development Corporation will, which is an entity of the city. So,
Right.
but just to be. very
As a
clear.
pass.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you,
No
Cal.
problem.
Any other discussion? Councilman Byrne.
Thank you. So this debt, is this debt gonna, that we're paying, is this the debt for the bond of the building of the ramp? Or is this the debt that Water Street is taking on? The Water Street Corporation is taking on. I know they're building elevators and the residents are going to be responsible. The builders are going to be responsible for 2 of the floors. But I think we're borrowing the money for them and then they're paying us back.
So my understanding, and I will,
I'm just wondering what the debt we're paying, their debt or our debt.
so we are paying, this will pay our debt. The way that the pilot is written, that has been brought before you separately, is that pilot functions to pay us back for the portion of debt service that supports the housing. So I believe the debt service is for both the ramp itself and the infrastructure to support the housing, but the housing company pays us back for the debt that we are paying on that podium and those elevators and electric and things that are specifically for the housing. So we incur the debt, but we're paid back for the portion that is not directly benefiting the ramp itself.
Right. So this money that we're going to use is going to pay the debt for the ramp, the
Yeah.
parking ramp.
Yes, correct.
Okay, thank you.
Basically, think of it as the debt is just aggregated together, but the housing, if you will, is a revenue generator for the city in and of itself. That's simplest way to think. But any other discussion? Megan, Sarah, thank you both very, very much. Appreciate you. Megan, my apologies.
No, that's okay. I apologize. I had just 2 quick things.
Please.
Councilman Burns, to answer your question about the bonuses, I just asked that it'll be a check that will come on July 14th. And then Councilman Riley, the RL that I just presented on, it's not money we have to give back. We would be reimbursed for that. So we never had it. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Megan. Appreciate that. That being said, I'd like to ask Billy Goodson from the sewage treatment plant to join us for RLs 23, 130, 131, 132, and 133. And 134.
Good evening.
Evening, Billy. How are you?
Good, how are you?
Thank you for joining us. The floor is yours.
Starting with RL 23-130, we received another check from FEMA in the amount of $89,746 to be increased in the state and federal aid, emergency disaster assistance, and the owner recovery expense line to be paid out to the owners.
Thank you, Billy. And just for the record, there was a request for expediting this one,
Yes,
just for the reason. Deadline,
deadline. Yeah.
time. That's what I figured. Just wanted to get it on there. No, absolutely. Thank you. Any discussion? Billy, 131, if you would, please.
Okay, during the budget process, we agreed to reduce our health insurance by $100,000. Knowing that we would have some unfilled positions during this year. We are at a point now that we can do the transfer from our hourly line to the health insurance line for the full amount of $100,000.
Thank you, Billy. Discussion? Seeing none, 132, please.
Okay, this is a resolution to enter into a professional agreement with Ramel America's Engineering Solutions to evaluate the existing digester gas microturbine piping. If you
Thank-
have questions, Elliot's here to help with that.
Elliot, good to see you, my friend. Any discussion on 132, please? Councilwoman Free.
Thank you, President Scrungy. Hi, Billy. Hi, Elliot. How are you?
How are you?
I'm okay. So is this in conjunction with RL 134, or this is separate?
It
This is separate. Okay. Okay, I don't have any questions for right now.
No problem.
Thank
Thank you. Any other discussion? Billy, 133, please.
We're requesting a change from operator one, unfunding an operator one position to fund an operator two position along with the benefits. We have an employee who is eligible to be promoted, so we'd like to open up that position for him.
Thank you. Discussion on 133? Seeing none. Billy, 134, please.
This is a resolution to enter into an agreement with GHD Consulting Services. We went out to bid for their services to provide an engineering report for the TPS building. They are going to provide a service so that we can go out for grants for IMG and WIA.
Excellent. Thank you, Billy. Any discussion on 134? Oh, and forgive me. I'm sorry, Billy. This one you also requested for expediting as well.
Yes, because the deadline is July 28th for the report.
Time and deadline. Thank you.
Yes.
Councilwoman Free.
Thank you, President Scrungy. Okay, this is the one that I had questions on. So I was looking at the email that Ed Crum had sent, which was helpful in understanding why this was necessary. So this is proposed to be like a permanent like infrastructure change, or I don't even know how to ask the question. But I mean, this is proposed to be a permanent change to the way that we filter things, like that, the way that the sewage treatment plant functions.
This RL is basically asking the engineers who produced this report in 2018 to modify a portion of that report based on real world conditions that we've experienced. As you all probably know, the advent of flushable wipes has significantly impacted the way that we process the influent. And back in about 2016, when this report was getting kicked around, it was the thought that we wouldn't need to screen that material out prior to the new process that they put in at the facility, which is a fine screen, a 6 mm fine screen. So basically, because the owners had this engineering report paid for, well, had us pay for the engineering report, it needs to be modified and run through the DEC. And basically, that has to happen before anything permanent happens. And then it needs to be run up to the DEC, and then a grant needs to be filled out, a grant request. And then we would seek engineering after this.
I see. Okay, so that helps significantly with my understanding of what this RL is actually asking for. So this is kind of the first step in what will be multiple. I don't know if all of that has to go through city council, but it's the start of a potentially long process.
Yeah, we want to take this in a step-by-step, obviously, method. This has to happen, and the reason that we're asking for it to be expedited is strictly because the grant deadlines in July 28th.
I see. Okay, that is very helpful information. Thank you.
Thank you, Council. Any other discussion? Billy, Elliot, thank you both very much. Appreciate you.
Have a good evening.
Thank you. Like to ask Sarah Gloss from the mayor's office to join us for RLs 123-130-43 and 144. Thank you for coming back, Sarah.
No problem. It was not. a
Floor
bad
is yours.
visit. Okay, 2 RLs, they're both authorizing grant applications. So the first one is authorizing the city to apply for a brownfield opportunity area grant from the New York State Department of State in an amount not to exceed $500,000 for eligible pre-development activities in the first ward BOA. So this is, I have my papers backwards. This is, apologies. This is nope, I just printed the wrong things. Okay. This is for our brownfield opportunity area in the first ward. It was nominated and made eligible in, I believe, 2014. So Department of State has pre-development activities, which can include anything from environmental work, engineering work, design work. We're currently engaged with a program through NYSERDA where they're helping us do some pre-development activities at the Cogen site at 22 Charles Street and surrounding areas. I have a meeting with them tomorrow actually to discuss some of the details of that, and that will inform our application. But just given the lead times, one, to make sure we got this into you, it does require a municipal resolution for our application.
Excellent. Thank you. Any discussion? Seeing none, 144, please.
Great. So this is a resolution authorizing the city of Binghamton to apply for a New York Main Street grant from New York State Homes and Community Renewal for the amount of $500,000 for a traditional New York Main Street target area building renovation project. Again, this is required for the application. This is, we're looking at State Street and Prospect Street. So through the commercial facade program that was funded through this body, we received more requests than we could take on, but we did receive a critical mass of projects from State Street and Prospect Street. With the investments that are happening there, have happened there, the property owners have really come to the table in wanting to improve their buildings and wanting support from the city to do so. And so aggregating a critical mass of those projects, many of which are $100,000 plus projects that will improve the look, safety, feel of both of those streets. We felt that this would be an appropriate way to increase the impact of that commercial facade program by adding additional properties that weren't able to be funded through our initial allocation.
Thank you, sir. Any discussion? Councilwoman Freeman.
Thank you, President Scrungy. So I see on the second page, it says that the local match is TBD. Is that, if I'm understanding that correctly, that's because there hasn't been a particular grant that has been, or, sorry, I think I'm not understanding this correctly.
That's okay. So we're looking at where the source is coming from or the amount itself?
The, let's see. Well, I'm looking at where it says local match, if any, TBD.
Yes, so this program is supposed to be primarily funded by the private property owners. Their match is supposed to come from their buildings. However, there is $15,000 that's eligible for street work, which would be municipally funded. So I'm not exactly sure where all of the money will fall out on that. And then just for the budget line and title, this wouldn't be funded until late 2023, wouldn't start until 2024. So until the budget process is finalized, I won't have the particular information on that.
I see. Okay, that is helpful information. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Any other discussion? Seeing none, Sarah, thank you very, very much.
And Megan did give me copies. I have 6 copies of the pro forma from my last presentation that I can leave. And we can also get you digital copies as well.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Thank you, Megan. It's time. I will hand the microphone over to Corp Counsel Brian Seacrest for 23-145, please.
Yes, we are asking that you approve the transfer of $371,000 from unused police funds, I believe for salary for positions that are unfilled, to the Corporation Counsel's outside counsel line. These are for bills that we've already been billed for that need to be paid. We estimate every year how much outside counsel we will need. And this year we were conservative, overly conservative probably, or we just didn't, we had no idea how many services we would need. And so we find ourselves having a shortfall. I will also tell you that probably within the next 2 to 3 meetings, I'll be coming back with an additional request for additional funds for bills that I know are also coming.
Thank you, Brian. Discussion. Councilwoman Freeman.
Thank you, President Scrungy. Hello, Brian. How are
Hello,
you?
how you doing?
Good. Does the budget line where this is coming from, does this have anything to do with the outcome of the cases, or this is unrelated?
No, this is just finding money that was available in the
Okay.
budget because it was unspent and allocating it towards the places that it has been spent.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Any other discussion? Brian, thank you very much. This time, pass the mic to Madam Clerk for RL 23-138, please.
This is for authorizing free parking at all of our municipal ramps for July Fest, which is July 7th through the 9th. So it'd be Holly Street, State Street, and the Collier Street lot.
Thank you very much. Any discussion? Councilwoman Freeman.
Thank you, President Scrungy. So my question is why? At the risk of sounding like a fiscal conservative here,
Which there's nothing wrong with.
it's just not within my personal value system. But I mean, it begs the question, if this is July Fest is presumably a chance where there will be a lot of people parking in the parking garage. Previously in the packet, there's legislation about parking garage debt. I'm just wondering why we're deciding to waive the fees for this big event.
So I looked at all the legislation throughout the past years, and it's dated back to 1997 that we've done this.
We've always.
Well, if I can also
Yeah,
share.
just to get on the record, we've done this for years.
I actually received email and from an owner downtown business who had communicated with others from downtown businesses and asked that we went ahead and bring this back because we had been doing it for years. That it would be very beneficial for folks going downtown and in our beautiful city for the what is it, July Fest, the 7th, 8th, and what dates are they? And one day is a Sunday, am I right or no? So that's,
Mhm.
am I right?
Yeah.
Okay, so
Oh.
that's free parking anyway.
Yeah.
That Sunday. So, yeah, so I just wanted to put that out there that folks did reach out regarding. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Any other discussion? Just want to get on the record how proud I am, Councilwoman Friedman, of your conservative fiscal principles. Excellent. I love my colleagues. Council, any discussion for the clerk's office regarding pending legislation? Excellent. Seeing none, again, just to get on the record, we did withdraw RL 23-129, that non-contract submitted bid for 92 Park Ave that we discussed earlier. Any other discussion? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion by Councilwoman Rezanetti, seconded by Councilwoman Riley. We are adjourned. Thank you all.